much.
Thank you very much, Gary. And on behalf of both Gary and Joe, I am Gary Finnegan from KEF. And, I'm just hoping that we have a little bit of fun. We can jostle back and forth today and enjoy it. And thank you, everybody who has taken time out of their busy day to listen to us. And hopefully you'll get a nugget or two. And that's really what these are all about. Finding something within our framework that meets your business model. And as our first line here says, KEF and Parasound, I've done a lot in the last 5 years of pairing these two very special products. And I'm telling you, every single time it sounds awesome. But I think before we get into some of the pairings, I think it's really important to know a little bit about the company that we represent. This year, KEF is actually experiencing our 60th year in business. So if you think about that for a second, 60 years, there's been a lot of audio companies that have come and gone in the last 60 years. But KEF has not only survived, but we've thrived in the last 60 years. Well, why do you think that is? Well, I can sum it up in one word: engineering. Our company was built on the foundation of engineering. Our company founder, Raymond Cook, he was a BBC engineer, and he went to work every day at the BBC with beautiful acoustic treated rooms. And he wanted to find a way to take the latest in materials and the latest technology and build a speaker platform that anybody could enjoy, whether it was in a monitored studio or whether it was in somebody's home or whether it was in somebody's office space. And what he did, he first started doing this in an old abandoned Nissan hut in Maidstone, England. And on the doorway of that, it said Kent Engineering and Foundry. KEF was born in 1961. But I think another big platform that we represent as a company that is extremely important to everybody is we're what we call a tier 1 company. What does tier 1 mean? It means that we engineer, we design, and we build everything ourselves. And we do it, as you see in this slide here, in 2 very specific places. All of our blades, muons, and reference speakers are all built in our flagship Maidstone, one person, one speaker, from beginning concept to finish. And then all of our production products are built in our own factory that we built in Whitechao, China. Everything there, not only do we do it for ourselves, but we do millions of drivers every year for a lot of other companies. But this is a high-end, like an Intel or a Toyota plant. It's very, very exclusive, very, very cool. The other thing that I think has been the game changer in our industry is what we did in 1988. We came out with a thing called the UniQ driver. And a lot of you may know what it is, but I want to just show you from a standpoint of what was being done in traditional speaker technology at that point and what we did differently. Traditional speakers had either a coplanar with, if you can see, my hand here is one plane. And let's say the mid-range is right here and the tweeter is right here. What that coplanar, because they're both on the same plane, but they have 2 separate points of source. And those source points come out and you have time smearing. The other type of technology at that point in time was coaxial, where you have a round speaker, you have a pole in the middle of that, and you have a tweeter on the end. That tweeter can be pivoting or stationary. The problem with that is that this front wave of information from this mid-range slaps up against the tweeter and you have diffraction. So you have some real issues with that. And as the part on the left part of this screen here shows you, you have those intertwined conversions. And so you have a muddying effect. Well, what Raymond Cook wanted to do was find a way to create a sound that was exactly how it was intended when it was first recorded. So what he did, and I'll take one of my speakers right here just to give you he took this particular speaker, and he put the tweeter in the acoustic center of the mid-range or mid-bass driver. That did two things. Number one, you have one single point source, so everything emanates at the same time and catches your ear in the same space. The other thing that we didn't know at the time is that because we have one single point source, everything emanates out off axis at a dispersion rate of almost 160 degrees. Well, that's a huge difference, because if you take a look at some of the traditional speakers, what has happened if you go and listen to some speakers at your home, or you go to an audio place and you want to sit down and get a real good demo? The very first thing that happens is somebody will sit you down right in the middle, in that sweet spot, and then he'll toe in one speaker here and the other speaker there, and you have this unbelievable imaging. The problem with that is that with most traditional speakers, they only have a sweet spot of between 15 and 35 degrees. So as soon as you stand up, or you move over this way, or you move over this way, all that imaging went away. You still hear music, or you still hear a movie soundtrack, but it's not the way it was intended when you first sat in that sweet spot. Now, you go to a KEF speaker. Anybody who is in between those two speakers with our off-axis dispersion of 160 degrees gets the full benefit of that sweet spot. So it's not just the one guy in the center, it's everyone who is in between those two speakers. It makes a massive, massive difference when you're talking about placement of speakers. Now, if I get into a little bit of some of our products here, about 10 years ago, we came out with probably our most iconic speaker at the time, and it was called the LS50. And we brought that out for our 50th anniversary. This particular speaker has become kind of the modern legend, as you would say. We have had more podcasts, more awards, more sayings about this particular speaker than any speaker that we've ever had up to that point in time. Well, fast forward 10 years, now we're into our 60th year. So what did we do to change that? And I just happen to have, that's going to be a bit heavy here, but I happen to have here our brand new LS50 Meta. Now, one of the things you can see on the outside surface is the original one was a gloss finish. This one, of course, is a satin finish all the way around, and it, in my opinion, it looks much, much richer and elegant. The UniQ driver is also more of a matted color. Then you look at the back, the finish on the back of this, the way the terminals and everything around it is just really, really done exquisitely well. But I think the two things that make this dramatically different from the original one, there are two things. Number one, we put the 12th edition of the UniQ driver in this brand new speaker, and that has made a significant difference in what you hear. And then the other product that we just started, it's an unbelievable product, and it's called MAT, or Material Absorption Technology. When you take any speaker and you put it into a box, you have a front wave is what you hear, but you also have a back wave of information that's internally in that box. And all companies have to have some kind of absorptive material to obviously get rid of some of that back wave of information. Some use wool, some use some kind of batting, some use foam. We, for the very first time, developed in collaboration with this AMG company, a round structure. And this round structure looks like a labyrinth, as you can see in the screen there. All of those independent labyrinths make up 30 independent channels that will actually absorb 99% of the actual high-end frequencies that you don't want to have get into the room. And because we've done that, this particular speaker is an amazing difference. Now, I personally have a pair of LS50 Metas, and I've matched them with the A21 Plus Parasound amp. To me, that is the perfect pairing with these speakers. But here's what I noticed immediately, because I used to have an original set of LS50s. Now that I've gone to the LS50 Metas, the very first track of the very first song that I heard with these, the bass was punchy and it was distinct and it really sounded good, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was just to the point and then it got off like good bass should. The next thing I noticed with the next couple of tracks were the strings from a guitar, the microphone sound, singing voices, horns, pianos. All those had a much crisper and clear and concise sound that I hadn't heard in the original LS50s. So those are some really big differences that this matte technology had allowed it to do. And then thirdly, as I was watching a movie, it really dawned on me how giant this soundstage was with these small speakers. We have a sound that was just enormous. And I'll tell you what, and Joe will back me up on this. You take a pair of these speakers, they're $1,500 retail. You take a A21 Plus amp, which is around $3,000. You're at $4,500. You get a nice preamp for another $1,500. Now you're at $6,000. You get some cables and a few other things. For less than $7,000, I would take this sound against any product out there in the market that's $10, $12, $15, $18, $20,000, and I would put it up to them head to head all day long, and I guarantee it, 8 or 9 out of 10 people would pick this system because that pairing, that matching with Parasound and our KEF is just an unbelievable synergy, and I really like the way that sounds. Then getting into the next, metamorphosis of the LS50 and the matte technology, we also came out a few years back with an LS50 wireless. Now we've made improvements to that. Number one, we have a much better amplification built into it. It's 280 watts for the low frequency and 100 watts to the high frequency. It's a complete platform. So if you plug it in and you want to listen to TV, great. If you want to plug it in and listen to music you have on your computer, great. If you want to watch or listen to any streaming device, it's great. So here's where I think the LS50 has its best scenario. Let's say as a dealer, you're out there doing some integration in somebody's home and they want to have whole house audio throughout their house. Then you put in your Kef speakers. You put in, say, like one of the zone amplifiers from Parasound, like maybe one of their 24 zone amplifiers, and you have all those speakers. But maybe they have 2 or 3 separate rooms that they want to listen to TV in, or they want to have some music in an office, but they don't want to go through all the. Here's a perfect scenario. You take the LS50 wireless 2, you plug it in, you turn on your phone and you go to your Bluetooth setting, boom, it's there. Or you go to your favorite Spotify or whatever music format you like. It's on there immediately. We have 1 app versus 2 apps before. We have the onboarding of this is so much easier. It's an excellent, excellent piece in terms of fitting into those niches. Some people may want it for their entire system. We have that capability with this. So here we have 2 brand new products, the LS50 Meta and the LS50 Wireless 2, both with the Meta technology built into them. Color-wise, on the LS50 Meta, we have the black, we have the white, and we have the gray. On the LS50 Wireless 2, we have the black, we have the white, and we have the gray. And then we have 2 special colors. On the Meta side, we have the blue, and on the Wireless 2 side, we have the crimson red with gray. So those are all options available to you. And please let us know how we can help make arrangements when you're putting these together in somebody's home. Another new product, what's really interesting about now that we're in COVID times, how we've been able to take and continue to evolve and continue to engineer and continue to collaborate and continue to create new product lines. Well, one of them happens to be our flush series. And this takes a little more work, but I happen to brought mine with me. We have this in two scenarios. We have it in both square and round. And I'll take the square here. They come in two individual pieces. So you take your X-Acto knife or your Dremel and you cut out your wallboard into a square scenario. Then you fit this right into the wall. Then you tack it in, and then we also give you 4 of these individual fiberglass pieces that go around each and every corner. Once that's in there, then you do your plastering around that, and you sand it down, and you plaster over it again, and sand it down, and then you have an even with the rest of the wallboard, and then you put in your and now you've got an excellent, excellent scenario. A lot of people love the way that this looks in a wall. And this, by the way, is our 5 1/4 inch. It's in our Q series. And so you've got great sound quality coming from that. Next up, we have a brand new KW-1 wireless subwoofer adapter kit. I don't have one to show here today, but on the screen as it shows you, you get 2 things. You get a transmitter that goes with your receiver or your preamp, and you get your receiver that goes right into the back end of our Cube, which is the 8, 10, and 12, or the KF92 subwoofer. They have a proprietary outlet or plug-in, and on the receiver, it has that 4-prong proprietary plug that plugs directly into the back end of this subwoofer. The kit includes 1 transmitter, 1 receiver, and that retails for 199 bucks. And then if you want to add a second wireless subwoofer, all you'll need is another receiver, and that receiver itself is an additional $100. The range on these is about 90 feet, but as you all know, depending on the environment that you're working in, sometimes you might have, closed off scenarios or corners, or maybe the all your wires are home run to a specific closet and it's quite a ways away. You have to take a look at everything to see what the range is going to be like. And you can have it on a 5.2 or 5.8 gigahertz to make sure the transmission is seamless and without any latency. Then finally, another product that we have just brought, I showed this earlier, but a lot of you have bought our 200 RRs from us, which are THX certified products. But a lot of people came to us and said, the only thing that we can put into this specific home is 6-inch speakers. But we want the highest rating, the best THX speakers that you have. So guess what? We listened and we came out with our 6.5-inch. We call it our CI160RR. It's got the same heritage. It's still got the 1-inch tweeter in it. And the other thing, if you can see this, the way that this rolls off here, this is what we call a shadow flare. And that helps aid in the dispersion of the sound so it gets that full 160 degrees of sound out there. It's a THX Ultra 2 collection or certification. Please check into them. We have them in stock and they're shipping now. Then finally, I wanted to just kind of tell you a quick story about the pairings of Parasound and KEF. I had a brand new dealer that this is going on maybe about a year ago, that contacted me and we brought him on board, but he wanted to really make a dazzle with a brand new client. And he asked me to come out and asked me if I would talk to this client. And so I met him out at this brand new home. And the client shook my hand and said, please help me with my cave. And I said, okay. So I walked inside. This room was 30 feet wide, 40 feet deep, and 30 feet high. It was an ominous big room. And of course, there was nothing in it at that time. So we start talking and our voices are literally bouncing everywhere in there. I said, the very first thing before you even start talking about electronics and speakers is the foundation. You need to start absorbing sound in here. It doesn't matter what you put into it, it's going to sound bad. And so we started talking about ways to absorb sound in there. And he came up with the idea of, well, what if I get a picture? I said, on the back of that picture, you want some absorptive material. So he got this giant painting and he put that on there. Then behind that, he bought all of these individual acoustic tiles that have sound absorption material on those. And he put those in the room. But as we started talking, we never even talked about speakers for quite some time until he asked, he said, Kerry, what would you do if this was your home? Now, when somebody asks me that, I'm just going to give them a straight, honest answer. My favorite speaker that we have in our entire lineup, not only because I think it's really aesthetically pleasing to the eye, but it is unbelievable when it sounds in a good room with the right kind of amplification. And so I instantly said, what I really like is our reference 5 speakers. And if this was my room, I'd put 4 reference 5s in there. And because it's such a huge room that you have to pressurize properly, I'd put 4 of our Cube 12s in there. And you should have seen the dealer. He's looking at me like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I said, and then I would power that with a very good Parasound amplifier. And I said, however, what is the main focus of this room? Is it for listening to music? Is it for watching television? Is it for movies? Give me an idea. He said 90% of it is for watching, or excuse me, for listening to music. However, we are putting in a nice, screen-sized TV, and we're also, so I want to be able to have obviously good sound. So I said, well, then you need a good 5-channel system. And so I said I would put one of our top-end in-wall CI 3160s in there for the center speaker. And I would buy an A51 Parasound amp to power it all. He looks at me again. He said, is this what you would do? I said, this is exactly what I do. So he looks right over to the dealer and he said, this is what we're doing. And that's how it ended up going. And this is the front end of that particular room. As the design continued to unfold, he decided that he wanted to have a custom built cabinet structure built in there as well. And we put in our top end, which is essentially our reference 5 floor standards that are in an in-wall design in that particular scenario. So we still have the 5160 reference, which is our reference 5s. There's also 2 Cube 12s in the cabinet structures there, and the other ones are in the background. And when we were all done with this system was absolutely amazing. And I keep going back to the synergy between KEF and Parasound, because in each and every time, this seems to just really work very well. Then one final thing I'm going to go into here before I hand it over to Joe, and he'll start talking more about the Parasound transaction and Parasound matching up with KEF. About a year ago, our company decided to build a experience center back in our corporate office, back in Marlborough, New Jersey. And right about the end of February, we got the final approval from the city, and we were ready to start opening the doors to everybody and start having all kinds of clients come in from all over the country and see this brand new experience center that we labeled the KML, because we're all about music and we're all about sound. And so we thought the KEF Music Lounge made the most sense. However, as most of you know, about mid-March, we had this crazy fear in everybody, and we didn't know what the heck was going on, called COVID-19. And that shot everything down. And so when we were building this, we were trying to figure out what kinds of components, both speaker-wise and by amplification, that we should put into this. And as you can see, it's a little bit filtered, but all the amplification in the theater, in the living room, in the bar area, in the lobby area, is all 100% Parasound. We have over 10,000 watts of power in our KML lounge that we have provided. And I'll tell you, I think it was about 2.5 or 3 months ago, Parasound came out with a brand new JC1, and we put those and matched those up with our blades. Unbelievable sound. And what I'm really hoping is that in the next couple months, as we roll into a new inauguration and we get more vaccines out there and all of these other things start happening, where we can actually start getting possibly back to a more normalized livelihood in terms of what we do with our personal lives. Maybe we can get a lot more people, and I'd love to get a lot of you out to our KML and experience everything that Kef and both Kef and both Kef and Parasound have to offer. And I'm going to pass it over here to Joe here in a moment. And actually, it looks like Gary's got the reins for a second here as well.
I'll just do a little song and dance in between, and just to confirm that. Thank you very much, Kerry. Awesome job, and your passion speaks volumes. Here, there's a great tagline for your signature line there, buddy. But thank you very much, and everything you had said is absolutely true. Got a couple questions here, maybe regarding Kerry, if you want to look at that. The LS50s on the Snap AV website. Shahruz, let me look into that. Kerry, are there any lines not represented on the Snap AV side of things that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't go on to the Snap AV website that much, to be perfectly honest with you, Gary. So I would say, as far as accessibility, anybody who is with the Snap organization has accessibility to our entire lineup. As you know, Gary, some of our lines are vetted lines. So depending on what part of the country that particular dealer is in, we have a vetting process. So just to let everybody know, our vetting process is for our LS collection, our R series, our reference series, our blade series, and our muons. Those 5 SKUs in our product assortment are vetted products. But because of our arrangement and because of our partnership with all the Snap AV locals, the accessibility is available to all. Does that make sense?
It does. Is there anything I could put on the email link tonight that covers that verbiage? Maybe we could update that. I'll get with you about that.
Yeah, let's get to that afterwards, and we can figure out what the verbiage would be.
Okay, great. And Shahruz, yeah, thank you. He's saying he buys his stuff from CPD. So yeah, here's a good thing. Not everybody has direct access to Snap AV if you're not actually a Snap AV dealer. You could just be going to Volume or CPD, etc. And sorry for that confusion, but this is a shared line. I mean, both of these companies, obviously that's why we're doing this. So Shahruz, we'll get more specific, and I will type you my email address, or you can hit me back on the email tonight, and we can get you accommodated. I have no problem getting you what I can from Volutone, and I'll loop CPD in here as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, Kerry. Great job. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, my friend. Can you hear me okay?
It's like learning about your line over the last, 6 months has been great for me. I've been in my store putting away product every day, and I'm putting Parasound stuff in the shelves. It's been great. And I'll tell you one thing, and you might not plan on elaborating on this, but let's just say, due to the COVID world, and Kerry kind of alluded to changes and things like that, has your product line just had so much more exposure? It seems that it has. It seems like it's a perfect time to introduce your line to us. The availability, I'm seeing great results so far. So thank you to our dealers. But Joe, I'm glad to have you back on to talk more about your line.
Thank you, Gary, and thanks, Kerry, and thanks to all of you guys who are participating in today's webinar. We actually absolutely saw an explosion this year, Gary, in business for us. I think to a couple of things. Certainly, it helped tremendously to have the access to so many customers that you and Snap AV have given us. Then secondly, the fact that we've introduced the best amplifier we've ever sold. Earlier, just basically about a year ago, we started shipping the first of these JC1 Plus. And so, yes, our sort of appearance or visibility within the industry has really risen. And we're glad to be sharing the stage today with KEF because these products are such a nice pairing. You know, we said in that first slide, home audio made simple, 2-channel audio made simple. In this tagline about high-end audio, not just for audiophiles anymore. I think one of the things we really want to get across in this presentation is, you know, we see customers who are routinely presenting 2-channel systems, routinely presenting better amplifiers, you know, connected to the back of a Yamaha receiver or whatever's your preferred brand, and other guys who are not so comfortable doing that. And I think in my part of the presentation today, I want to reinforce what a great pairing we are with KEF, but also how easy it can be to present, you know, high-end audio. So here's my brief agenda. We're going to do a little bit of line overview, although Gary has obviously given us a couple chances already to do that with you and your customer base. So won't spend all the time going through all our products, not nearly, but we'll talk a little bit about why we're such a good match with KEF. I'll show you my own little take on the Experience Center. We're going to talk about audio video home theater systems and 2-channel audio systems. And we're going to touch on distributed audio systems because KEF makes some great products in that category too. Carrie, you might want to just click your mute button just so there's no interruption there. So this slide is just to get you a little bit more comfortable. If you're not comfortable with Parasound and who we are, we're now celebrating our 40th year in business. So not quite as long as KEF at 60 years, but really we've been at this for quite a long time. And all of it with this idea of value engineering. We don't make a $60,000 DAC or whatever those kinds of products that are out there. We also don't make the least expensive product in any category either. There are other people who do that really well. When we say value engineering defines our mission, we want to make the most affordable high-end products that we can possibly make. So you just saw a $17,000 pair of monoblock amplifiers you can get from Parasound, but we make a $350 amplifier at retail that really sounds great. We make a $200 phono preamp that sounds fabulous. So value engineering is what we're all about. And I think we make such a great combination with KEF because they think very similarly about this sort of thing. They're not interested in making the least expensive product in the industry. That's not where KEF lives. But they also don't want to make the absolute stratospherically most expensive product because we think so many of you are selling to people who can afford the high end, but they may not necessarily want the absolute most expensive thing that's out there. So this idea of high performance, but with a very reasonable price tag is where both Parasound and KEF are putting all of our energies. Just to briefly say, these two gents over here on the right, this is Richard Schramm, the man who founded Parasound in San Francisco back in 1981. And this is John Curl, one of the most brilliant electronics engineers in our industry. We've been enjoying our partnership with him for, I think it's just a little over 30 years now. This is a guy who's in the Absolute Sound Hall of Fame. And he, in the 70s, was helping the Grateful Dead and the Jefferson Airplane with their recorded and concert sound. This is a little bit of a window into why we're able to bring the kind of products that we are to you guys at the prices that we can. All the products are designed and engineered in San Francisco and built by some very trusted partners we have in Taiwan to bring you the best value proposition that we can possibly bring you. And again, why did KEF choose Parasound? You heard Carrie talk about it, but they wanted to have an experience center where customers could come and experience, if you want, literally $250,000 pair of 2-channel speakers or a spectacular sounding home theater. And virtually all of it is loaded with Parasound because we're so good at bringing the value proposition of high-end amplification. So we're very proud of this partnership with KEF and very glad, Carrie, that you and your company have chosen us to be the partner in this wonderful experience center, the KLM. Let me just give you a little bit of a Parasound line overview. About 2/3 of what we sell every year is in this group that we call Halo. We actually have 4 different lines within our brand, but Halo is our best product. And of course, so many of you guys are talking to customers who, again, can afford products in the higher end. So this is high-end audio at affordable prices. I love this first quote where Soundstage is talking about the $6,000 at retail, JC5. It's worth every penny. delighted me in ways that few other components ever have. This is our $1,500 phono preamp, the JC3 Junior. Sound of it is breathtakingly beautiful. Why do people say these things about Parasound products? Because we're so tightly dialed in on that idea of high end with value engineering. So we're bringing you the things that make a sonic difference and a reliability and quality difference, and we're leaving out the bells and whistles and things that you don't really need. We'll focus just a little bit on this specific amplifier that I mentioned. The JC1 Plus is the best thing that we've ever done. And this will give you a window into how all of our lesser expensive products, share in the same technologies. How do you create an amazing amp? It helps to start with one that was pretty spectacular initially. So in 2003, we came out with the JC1, the original monoblock. It spent 15 years on Stereophile's Class A recommended component list. That is astounding. But about 6 years ago now, John and Richard started talking about how they could bring in something that's even better. This JC1 Plus is capable of delivering 1,300 watts into a 2-ohm load, okay? And the results sonically are just spectacular. I love, again, this quote from Positive Feedback. So this is a product that the two monoblock amps, because each JC1 Plus is a monoblock, retail together for $16,990. Positive Feedback said if I were shopping for a pair of monoblocks under $25,000, this would be my first choice. So again, even a product that's this costly can be considered truly high value, because products that it gets compared to that are twice as much money, 3 times as much money. I'm not telling you that we outperform them every time, but we hold our own on even footing with considerably more expensive products. Now, some of you might be saying, okay, Joe, but how many of my installations will I have a chance to sell a product like that? The good news is that all of that technology, all of what we have in a JC1 Plus, with paying so much attention to the input stage and having separate power transformer just for that, so that you prevent any distortion getting to the output stage in the first place. Really well done capacitors to give those brief bursts of information when you get to that big car crash scene, or something's blowing up on the screen, or that big dynamic when the kettle drums and the entire orchestra are coming in. All those approaches to engineering are found in a product like an A23 Plus, which you can sell to your customer for $1,500 and make good money. Again, the Parasound P6, this preamp, and A23 Plus are dynamite. This is a package that you can put in for $3,000 with whichever pair of Kefs you might want to choose, and have a really outstanding package. It's a fully loaded 2.1 preamp. So yes, you can sell a pair of those LS50s, and later, if you want to, let's say the room size demands that you add a couple of subwoofers, you can add a couple of subwoofers and have control over them at the remote control. 6 analog inputs, 4 digital inputs, very flexible in terms of what you can hook up. You want to sell them a turntable, but they don't quite have enough room in the budget to add a separate phono preamp. That's okay. We have a very high quality one built in already. And we can deliver 240 watts per channel into a 4-ohm load out of this bad boy. So, again, that value engineering approach, some of our competitors only make very high-end stratospheric products and virtually nothing that's affordable. We have all kinds of products that are really in the kind of price range, which means you can sell them day in and day out. Let's take a quick look at Zone Master, which is a real favorite of integrators. And let's be honest, Gary, you're primarily selling to integrators, whether it be commercial or residential. These are more expensive amplifiers than what you might get from so many of our competitors who do really good business in that architectural audio space, but they're fabulous amplifiers, and our customers who have tried them love them. Why? Number one, never seen an integrator who likes rolling a truck to go back to the job site to fix something that's gone down. These 3 amplifiers, Zone Master 2, 4, and 12, and obviously the main difference is the number of channels you can address. These 3 amplifiers can sustain a dead short. You accidentally get your screwdriver across the outputs, it's not a problem. You take your screwdriver away, the amplifier can still work just fine. And we've done this over and over in our own torture testing. How good do you want your distributed audio system to sound? You can put in very affordable, very inexpensive products from a whole range of brands. But if you sell the customer a really high quality pair, or obviously all around the house, a series of pairs of KEF architectural, you've really done the customer a massive favor. And if you then in turn power them with the ability to deliver current that our amplifiers have, you're going to get amazing sound quality. Let's just kind of lift the lid a little bit here and show you the innards of the 12-channel version of these three amplifiers. We noticed 10 or 15 years ago, because we didn't used to have distributed audio amplifiers, but we noticed 10 or 15 years ago, there was kind of this race to the bottom, this lowering of the price from so many of our competitors. They were going with one power supply, even for many, many channel amplifiers. Well, with one power supply, sure, you keep the cost down, but you can't possibly deliver the kind of current that a really good in-wall or in-ceiling speaker wants to see. If you're driving multiple zones, by the way, I mean, you can kind of get away with it if you're driving one zone, but if multiple zones are playing at the same time, the power drops really significantly. And any kind of stability into a difficult load, it just starts going away. So we very carefully designed our distributed audio amplifiers so that they sound like our home theater and two-channel amplifiers. And by the way, when we spec with all channels driven. If you want a really space-saving and cost-saving approach to high-end audio, think about having 24 individual Kef speakers, really high-quality ones, all hung off the same amplifier that only takes 2U of space in your rack. You can do it with this one because, again, we've got that stability into a 2-ohm load. The fact that we have A and B outputs on each zone gives you huge flexibility. You can go with just 12 speakers if you want, but you can double up and go to 24 or some combination depending on what you might want to do. By the way, we do give you in this first zone, this is a high power zone, so there's more power than the rest of them, specifically for your outdoor speakers. More speakers with less rack space, it's more efficient for you, and the customer's not paying additional dollars just for additional rack space, but you're getting terrific sound quality out of a Zone Master 12. So it's $24.95, and again, I think a real bargain. It's one of our best-selling products. By the way, would some of your customers like to be able to have a streamer in their multi-zone, multi-channel application? Of course they would. Many of our competitors offer you the ability with a turn-on trigger option to hook up a streamer like a Sonos or preferably, hopefully, a Hios or a Blue Sound. Well, we do it by zone. If mom and dad want to be listening in their listening area and the kids want to be listening in their bedroom, it's not a problem. Where Les Rants would give you one 12-volt trigger for your streaming devices, we give you a trigger for every zone in the system in the ZM12. Now, what about doing multi-channel home theater systems? Obviously, many of you guys are using Yamaha or other high-quality receivers to do your home theaters. That's great. If you really want a superb speaker to sound terrific, and you heard Carrie say this several times, you've got to give it the kind of power that it craves. So one sales tip that we would recommend to you, every time you sell a home theater, just ask the customer, which multi-channel amp do you plan to use? Now you're going to get a certain amount of, well, what are you talking about? I thought this Yamaha receiver had all the amplifiers in it. Well, it does have an amplifier per zone, but you're never going to get out of it the same kind of power and the same kind of ability to give you great bass and incredible dynamics that you would get out of a separate product like this one here. This is a 5-channel amp from us that retails at $29.95. And if you're asking that question with every home theater sale, even though you know that in a lot of cases you will be restricted to the amplifiers that are in the receiver, but you're opening up yourself and your sales staff to the ability to at least try to recommend a separate power amp every time. Because remember that the home theater receiver's secret weapon is the fact that all of the better home theater receivers now give you these pre-outs. So it is literally as simple as taking an RCA cable that you can buy from Voluatone, plugging it into the pre-outs, plugging now into the Parasound amplifier, like that A52 Plus that we just saw, and boom, you're off to the races. You're getting all of what Yamaha does so well with that steering logic. That means the horses truly are going from left to right across the screen in a believable way, or that jet engine is going over your head. because these guys are so good at steering logic that we can't do well. We don't have all these digital engineers, but then we come in with the muscle and make it sound really fabulous. I want to show you, by the way, again, the pre-outs, make it easy for you as the installer. I want to show you, this is the inside look at a 7-channel receiver from a very well-known brand, guys who are great, who I used to sell, and I still use some of their products. And these are the insides of a Parasound, a Parasound A21 Plus. Oh my gosh, what just happened? Sorry, we have a little tech difficulty there, so let's get back to, there's the slide I want to be on. So take a look at this slide carefully. You can see that there's no way, once you, as the receiver manufacturer, have built everything into the chassis that you want to put in, once you've got all that steering logic and 7 channels of amplification and all the names that are on the front cover, once you've got all that stuff covered, there's no way that you can build in the massive transformer you see here or the huge capacitors that you see here. There's no way you can do all of these output devices and build all the heat sinking in that you'd really like to have. It just becomes impossible. So that's why all of the home theater guys, Yamaha and Sony and whomever, why they all give you preamp outs. So if you really want to make your speakers sing, you can add on a multi-channel amplifier. Let's talk 2-channel for a moment. You might be asking, why is a picture of Michael Jordan adorning this particular slide? Well, it's simple. Again, there are some guys who routinely bid high-end 2-channel audio, and some guys who virtually never do. But as you know, in life, you miss 100% of the shots that you never take. So maybe think back to 10 or 15 or even 20 years ago, if your company's been doing business that long. Were you routinely selling lighting systems back then, or shades, or projectors and screens? Music is fun and profitable, and everybody loves it. I had a good friend of mine, Joe Corona, when he was repping, he kept trying to sell a customer who he did good business with, kept trying to get him to bid shading systems. The fellow kept saying, no, shades are not my business. One day that fellow called him up and said, Joey, I got a couple who I think really want a shading system. Can you help me bid it? 2 weeks later, Joe and that integrator were bidding out and inking a $30,000 shade system. If you're not routinely presenting 2-channel audio to your customers, they're not routinely buying it. If you are, however, sometimes they might say to you, well, I love the idea of 2-channel audio, but I don't have a dedicated room where I could do that. Not a problem. Sell them one of our systems, because in the remote control, you'll be able to do home theater bypass. You can sell them all the products that you're already selling them, the wonderful Kefs for left and right, all these sources you've already sold them. With home theater bypass, they can listen in 2-channel and really, really enjoy it. What's the net result of better amplification? It's so simple. Your system and your speakers are going to sound so much better. The fact that our amplifiers are highly affordable means that you can take really a good chunk of the budget for your customers and sell them better Kef speakers without needing to sell them a massive amount of amplification in turn, because the Kefs are relatively efficient. So in this case, you've got I think $13,000, $14,000 pair of Kef Reference 3. This again is about a $4,500 package between an A21 Plus and a P6 that Kerry referenced in his section. I love this quote from the customer that wrote in, this is about a year ago. I don't even remember which speakers, but the A21 Plus transformed my speakers, made them sound better than I've ever heard them sound. So the net result is you're going to have a really happy customer. And Halo will, in fact, make these Kefs sing and maximize their potential. So in my last slide here, before we just open it up to questions, I want to say to you, if you haven't been routinely speccing, 2-channel audio systems, please let's keep it simple. We have a product that we call the Hint 6, the Halo Integrated 6. It's got everything that you need in it at $29.95. And as you look at retail, $3,000 retail. And as you look at the back here, you see some pretty high-end features, really robust outputs. You've got both balanced and unbalanced, or standard RCA, analog inputs and outputs. You've got subwoofer outputs with the ability to have influence over the flexibility of where you want your crossovers and so forth. This product is ready to go. It's got everything you need, including the remote control. Just plug in sources and you're good to go. If you did it with, just say, for example, this pair of KEF RT11s, well, it obviously $3,000 plus $54.95. You're at $84.95, reasonably affordable. If you show every customer that bid, some will say, don't have the room for it. No problem. Merge it with your home theater and do home theater bypass. Or they might say, well, I just don't have the money for it. I'm maxed out. That's okay. But some of them will say, that's a great idea. And if you've kept it simple for yourself with this single bid, soon enough, you'll learn what you want to do if they're at this price point, that price point, and you'll generate some serious revenues. I know that we've got probably, 5-10 minutes left, and there may be some questions. If you need to reach out to me personally, it's joe@parasound.com, or just send an email to sales@parasound.com. We're happy to answer your questions. But Gary, if you would, you take over now and see what they've got for us.
Great presentation. Thank you so much. I love the product, man. I just wish we could do a sound demo, that everybody can hear right now. In fact, I'm here. Maybe I should put a system together for everybody.
We thought you were going to do that, Joe.
I know. So, okay, first question, Joe, goes to you. Any plans to add a high quality 70-volt amplifier? I do a lot of outdoor systems, and it would be nice to have a Parasound amp to pair with my typical ZM12 amps. Most 70-volt amps leave a lot to be desired. He's right. Sharuz, thank you for the question. Joe?
Sharuz has bought a number of our products. I think I've interacted with him over email before. At the moment, today, I can't tell you that we have plans for a 70-volt, but we are looking at it because you hit the nail on the head, Sharuz. That tends to be an industry where, again, kind of a sink to the bottom price-wise sort of thing. So I think there's some real potential for an updated or a better quality 70-volt amplifier. But I can't tell you that we have any plans to ship one anytime in the near future. No.
Joe, I think this second question is for you as well.
Okay.
Reggie, thank you. I've been selling your product a long time. It's fantastic. However, John Krill is no spring chicken. On the engineering side, who's bringing up the rear is no longer with the company.
Right. So great question. And you're right. John's not as young as he once was. Unlike me, I keep getting younger every year. But actually, Bob is our lead engineer, and Bob's been working at Parasound, I think, for close to 20 years now. He is also an integrator. He actually has an account with Snap AV. So when he first was hired by Richard, he said, look, I want to keep kind of on the side doing integration jobs. We never would have had these ZM amplifiers if not for Bob. We will hate it the day that John Kroll tells us he's designed his last product. He doesn't seem to be there quite yet, but we do have an engineering staff in place. And but yeah, you're right. We have to continue to look to the future because you guys want us to continue to build better and better products.
On that, Reggie has a second question, a follow-up. What is the next Kef speaker, to Carrie actually, what is the next Kef speaker that is going to take advantage of the new META product?
Very good question, and it's above my pay grade. So I would say, just speaking out loud here, because I really don't know, but if I was to take a gander at it, I would say since we are already in our small box speakers, it's probably going to be into maybe a floor stander next. That's what I would believe it would be. I don't have that that's just me saying what I think. One other thing that I wanted to, since I have the floor right now, Gary, is I want everybody who's still with us to tune in to KEFUSA.com tomorrow morning. We are introducing and we're having a global launch of a brand new product. And I guarantee it's something that every person who is listening will be able to use. I cannot tell you what it is because it's embargoed until tomorrow, but please tune in. It was funny when Gary first set this up. I thought, oh man, one day be fine. It was one day, but anyway, it's inauguration day today. Tomorrow it's global launch day.
All right. Well, with that being said, when we did talk about that, I thought for sure I'd be able to get you on the spot and be like, all right, I'm 8 hours out. Let's do this. I mean, okay, well, that's a fantastic tease. Everybody on this call, I'm going to send you an email tonight. So Carrie, give me that link. I will put that on there. Okay. A direct link. So what is it? Is it a Zoom kind of thing? Give us what you can about how it's going to unfold.
We've sent out a little bit about some of the technologies that we're doing. And one of the things with this, it has several new patent pendings on it. And I'm telling you, it's going to be another game changer in our audio world. It simply will be. But I can't really go into more than that, just simply because of the embargo nature of what it is. But I guarantee anybody who is in the audio video business will appreciate this brand new product.
Okay. How about this? Are we talking about a summer release? What time frame? No. What?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow it's live.
Tomorrow it's live.
So it makes me think: is this a tangible piece of product? Is it? And also, it
is a product, and
okay.
It's amazing that we're actually coming out with brand new products in what's happening in the world today. That shows how much passion we have in this industry, and with our engineering team constantly trying to move that needle, we have a product that everybody will enjoy tomorrow.
Okay. That being said, you guys look at your email tonight with even more vigor and excitement, as I'll have this link for us to open this thing up tomorrow. And as for me, as far as getting product and SKUs to you guys, how does that translate to your CPD catalog or your Volume catalog? I'll figure it out. It will be there. If it's something that I can promote, that's what I do. I get it to you guys. So you got a great team here and getting you some new stuff. I love that. Thanks for the tease, Carrie. Hey, Joe, great presentation. As I said, why don't you do a final words for us, and I'll pass it to Carrie, and then we'll end it. Go ahead, bud.
Sure. I'm very grateful to you, of course, and very grateful to each of the people that sat in on the call. I hope it was helpful for you. I'm just so lucky to have, for most of my adult life, worked in an industry where we get to bring people pleasure. And, I'm really excited that, you guys at Volume and at Snap AV both, I think, had such an amazing profile of products that you could bring to your integrators, but it was probably a little light on the high-end 2-channel and the high-end home theater, the audio side of the high-end home theater range. And, Kef and ourselves matched together to help you guys solve that. I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful start for us, and I think Carrie feels the same way. Carrie, over to you.
Well, one of the things I have to say, Joe, is that I have been privileged to be involved in probably 35 to 50 really, really nice theater systems over the last 5 years that matched Parasound and Kef. And one of the things that keeps me so passionate about in this industry is when you actually get to listen to the final pairing, when that person hands over that remote to the client and says, turn it on, and watch their face light up. That's what keeps driving me, because I know that is a wow experience that you just don't get with a lot of other pairings. Kef and Parasound do it right and do it for the right amount of money, because it's quality product at a really reasonable price point. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you if you got a little bit of nugget out of either Joe's or my presentation this morning. And I thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to us.